Hey y'all, it's your Missniecytv and I'm here to do a review for Divorce Sistas Season 1, Episode 5. The episode starts off with Geneva, and Geneva's sitting there complaining about how long they've been sitting in the jail because they've been there overnight and it's apparently 6 o'clock in the morning. Javon's like, okay, I'll go figure something out. So Javon leaves and Tiffany tries to talk to Geneva about Javon, and Geneva's of course not trying to hear that. She's like, why didn't you tell me about him? He's so fine. Why did he get a divorce? What was his ex-wife like? Geneva, of course, gets snappy and she's like, for one, I didn't tell you anything because there's nothing to tell. I don't know him outside the office. Secondly, if you want to know about his divorce, ask him because I just found out myself and he could tell you better than I could. Tiffany can definitely pick up on the energy and she's like, oh, okay. But I really like him and I think I really want to start dating. Geneva's like, I know I told you to get it out there and start dating again, but I just want you to be careful and I don't want you to rush anything. You can't even hide the fact that you have feelings to this man because your facial expressions show it every time and you're a little smart from her. You might as well tell Tiffany what's going on so that she can decide what she wants to do when it comes to Javon. They're talking, they get a call from Bridget as Bridget's getting ready for work and she's like, how's Naomi doing? And she's still in jail. The girls are like, yeah. Eva and Tiffany are like, how's the girl doing? And Bridget's like, I don't know, I tried to call Rashida, but she's not answering. Tiffany's like, that's weird. Tiffany, Geneva, and Bridget plan to go to Naomi's house after she gets out of jail to have a talk with her. Bridget lets Geneva and Tiffany know that the situation with Naomi at the banquet is viral. It started out with 39 views, now it has 17,000 views, and the church PR team is trying to get a hold of it so that the church doesn't have bad press. This is when Javon walks in and he lets the girls know that Naomi should be out in a minute, and Bridget's like, what's going on? Tiffany tells her that Naomi will be out in a minute. Next thing you know, we see Naomi walk in. And she's like, they're with my dress, but I'm tired. Over at Bridget's house, we see Bridget finally get off the phone with the girls. And she's having a conversation with herself. And she's like, what am I doing? Anna's like, what are you talking about? Bridget's like, oh, nothing. I thought you were asleep. Anna's like, how could I sleep when you're in here making all this noise? Bridget's like, I'm making all this noise because I'm getting ready for work. And that's what you should be doing. You need to get a job. Bridget's like, I shouldn't be the only one that's getting ready for work. And I shouldn't be the only one that's making money. And you're sitting here playing video games. And it's like, if that's what you think I'm doing, I'm actually sitting here trying to lunch my site. Bridget's like, that's okay and that's cool. But in the meantime, you need to still find a job. Anna's like, I quit those jobs because they were messing with my mental health. Bridget's like, in my day, there was no such thing as mental health, and that's all y'all talk about. Anna's like, who's y'all? Bridget's like, y'all generation, that's all y'all talk about. Mental health this, mental health that. Back in my day, there was no such thing as that. One thing I can say is that majority of the older black generation don't take mental health seriously at all. Anna's like, you're doing all this because I quit a job. Bridget's like, no, I'm doing all this because you won't keep a job. And the next thing you know, we hear a knock. Anna's like, you gonna get that? Bridget's like, so you want me to get that? Anna's like, yeah. So she goes downstairs. She opens the door. It's Calvin. Calvin's like, where's my key at? Bridget's like, what you talking about? Calvin's like, Vaughn took my key, and I might have to either break into the safe or call a locksmith. Mind you, Calvin has a conversation with Bridget, and he's like, you deserve better. Bridget's like, who are you to tell me that I deserve? Bridget's like, I'll go ask him. So she goes upstairs and asks him. Vaughn is like, no, and what are you talking about? I didn't take no key. So she goes back downstairs and tells Calvin. Calvin's like, he's lying. She's like, go ask him yourself then. Calvin goes upstairs. He has a little altercation with Vaughn, starts talking to him crazy, and Vaughn has a nerve to say, so you gonna let him disrespect me in my house? Bridget's like, your house. The next thing you know, Calvin and Vaughn get to fighting. At first, Calvin had the best of Vaughn, but then Bridget tried to get in the middle to break it up, and the next thing you know, we see her fall to the ground, and then she gets back up, and then they still fighting, and then Vaughn turns around and kind of gets the best of Calvin, and Vaughn goes downstairs, and then Calvin leaves. We're at Naomi's. Everybody finally makes it to Naomi's house, and they make sure that Naomi gets in the house safely. Tiffany and Javon have a conversation outside about how they really liked the time that they spent together last night, and now they should get together and do it again, and Javon asked her out. The whole time Tiffany and Javon are having this conversation, Geneva's standing in the doorway looking at them so mad. They both agree that they're going on a date Friday night. Geneva is not happy about this at all. Then Javon says he's waiting for his car. Tiffany's like, well, why don't you come inside and wait? Geneva chimes in and she's like, I don't think that's a good idea. Javon's like, yeah, I don't think that's a good idea either. I'll just stay out. Tiffany and Geneva walk back into Naomi's house and Tiffany's like, so why wasn't that a good idea? Geneva's like, look. They turn around and Naomi's sitting there with a bottle of liquor in her hand and a cup. She's drinking the liquor. Naomi's like, he took everything and even the safe is gone. Naomi's like, ain't it a little too late for the things to be happening in our lives? And that's when Bridget walks in and she's like, Naomi, are you okay? Naomi snaps and she's like, of course I'm not okay. Everything's gone. And you're asking me, am I okay? Tiffany's like, hold on now. She just came to ask if you're okay. Naomi's like, of course I'm okay. Naomi's like, I know you guys hate me, and the girls are like, we don't hate you. And then Naomi's like, Rashida couldn't even call me, and the pastor hates me. Bridget's like, well, it's early for one. Tiffany's like, the pastor just doesn't like what you did. And Naomi's like, well, what kind of pastor is he? Allowed Franklin to get up there and do all that and not even stop him. Bridget's like, hold on now, the pastor's a good man. And Naomi's like, well, you've been drinking the Kool-Aid from the church. And you have... Naomi clocked Bridget's tea so bad. She's like, you have a lot to say for someone who's never been married. Can barely take care of herself, but is taking care of a man. And also, that man don't even check on you. So what are you talking? Naomi's talking about suing Franklin, and Geneva's like, I don't think that's a good idea. And Tiffany steps in and she's like, can we just stop sugarcoating stuff and tell her the truth? Geneva's like, even if you tried to sue her, your case wouldn't get nowhere because you started this. And you would need a really good defense attorney because what you did was a crime, and suing him would kind of be pointless. The girls get up to leave after they have a conversation with Naomi after they tell her they're coming back later to help her clean up. The girls go outside. Geneva's like, I'ma leave so I can get ready for work. And Tiffany's like, okay, let's go. Geneva chimes in and she's like, Bridget, can you take Tiffany to her car? Tiffany's like, why? You always stop by the place where my car's at on your way home, so I don't know why you can't take me home. Geneva's like, well, I gotta make some personal calls for Naomi. And Tiffany's like, okay. And then once Geneva leaves, Tiffany's like to Bridget that Geneva's acting weird. Girl, she's acting weird because you're trying to date the man that she had an affair with and is still in love with and possibly has a child. Over at Pastor Jeff and Rashida's, Pastor Jeff is on the phone talking to Myron. And he's like, I'm about to go to the gym. I'll call you when I get in the car. Then that's when his son walks in. And he's like, Dad, I need some money. Pastor Jeff is like, well, go ask your mom. The son is like, well, I would if I knew where she was. Pastor Jeff is like, she's not in the guest room. The son is like, no. Pastor Jeff is like, you could also at least take a morning before you ask for money. Pastor Jeff is like, don't I give you an allowance? The son is like, yeah, but that ran out, and I need money now. Over at Geneva and Williams, we see William getting Anika ready for school, and he's talking to her, and he's telling her that he's going to take her to school today, and Anika's like, where's mom? Anika's like, I didn't hear her come in last night. And then William's like, she's on her way. Then he calls the nanny and tells the nanny to get Anika ready for school so he could go downstairs and make breakfast. And that's when we see William making breakfast. And he texts Geneva to make sure she was on her way and she's okay. Then he gets a call from Javon, and Javon and him debrief about what happened at the church banquet. And William asks about Tiffany and how everything is going. And Javon's like, well, I asked her on a date. And I think that you and Geneva should go. William is like, Geneva's not having it, and I don't know why. She seems very stressed lately. And Javon just wants to sit there and play in Geneva's face and watch her squirm while she has to put on a face for William. Then we see Bridget and Tiffany talking as they're taking Tiffany to her car, right? And Bridget starts talking about Vaughn and the whole Naomi situation. And Tiffany is like, there's beauty in this whole situation. And Javon's a breath of fresh air, and I really like him. And Bridget's like, that's good for you, but I don't think I can deal with Vaughn anymore. Then Bridget tells Tiffany about the whole Calvin and Vaughn fight and how everything went down. And Tiffany's like, wow, I'm surprised Calvin didn't hurt him. Bridget's like, what do you mean? Tiffany's like, Calvin's a professional boxer, and if he didn't hurt him, that's because he didn't want to. Bridget's like, I didn't know that. And then Bridget goes on to say that Vaughn was very violent. Tiffany is like, I don't like that. And Bridget's like, I don't like it either. Back over at Naomi's house, we see her sitting on the couch in lingerie, and she's on the phone talking to the male escort that was over at her house in the first episode. Naomi's like, you say you can do whatever you needed to get done for me, right? How far does that go? The guy is like, I don't think we should be talking about that on the phone. Naomi's like, well, get over here. I'll give you 20 minutes. The guy is like, give me an hour and a half. Mind you, while he's talking to Naomi, another girl's laying in his bed naked. Over at Geneva's, we see Geneva finally gets home, and William tells her that breakfast is made and he's going to take Anika to school. Back over at Pastor Jeff and Rashida's, we see Pastor Jeff talking to his daughter, and the daughter's like, where's mom? She's not in the guest room. I don't know where she is. Pastor Jeff is trying to evade the lie. The daughter's like, you telling half truths. You always do that when you're not trying to tell the truth. And the daughter is like, are y'all gonna get a divorce? Pastor Jeff is like, no, me and your mother are very happy. We're not getting a divorce. The daughter is like, maybe you should. We can all be happy. And then Pastor Jeff don't want to hear the truth, so he tells the girl to go upstairs. And back over at Naomi's, the guy eventually shows up, and Naomi's basically talking about the situation, and she's like, how much would it cost for me to get somebody deleted off the planet? The guy is like, well, it's not gonna be cheap. And when the guy first walked in, he's like, what happened here? And Naomi's like, I got robbed. Then she eventually confessed and said it was her ex-husband's fault. Over at the school where Anika goes to school, Geneva's sitting outside in the parking lot watching William talk to the yoga instructor. Apparently he gave her flowers, and Geneva's sitting there watching him. That's when Geneva gets a call from Javon, and he's like, I'm just calling to see how your girl's doing. Geneva's like, Tiffany can give you that information. Geneva, you're doing too much to show this man that you're still down bad for it. Then he's like, well, I just wanted to hear it from you. Geneva's like, I'm tired of the BS. Javon is like, what BS? Geneva's like, well, you just do what you want to do anyway. Javon is like, I want to do what I want to do, but you won't let me. Geneva's like, well, I'm not stopping you. Javon is like, remember all that stuff we talked about? Geneva's like, I gotta go. Over at Pastor Jeff and Rashida's, the kids come outside and they discover their mom sleeping in the car. And they're like, Mom, what are you doing in the car? She's like, nothing's wrong. Kids keep asking if something's wrong. She's like, no. Rashida's like, what are y'all doing outside anyway? The kids were like, we're waiting for the school bus. Rashida's like, well, go ahead and catch the bus. She starts yelling and snapping at the kids. The kid is like, oh. Laz had the nerve to ask his mom for some money in the state that she's in. Of course she would yell. Mind you, when the kids first walked outside, Kelly told her brother Laz that he needs to tell his parents what's going on. Some time passes and the kids catch a school bus, and then Pastor Jeff comes out the house and he discovers Rashida sleeping in the car, and he's like, well, what are you doing in the car? Rashida's like, well, you didn't open my door for me last night, and at first I thought she was tripping. Even Jeff called her childish, and at that moment I couldn't blame her until she really explained what the significance of the door opening meant when they got into a little argument. She basically doesn't feel seen, heard, and she's like, Jeff doesn't make room for her anymore. She doesn't matter. He's not opening with the communication anymore, and she's like, you don't care for me, you don't see me, you don't love me. Jeff is like, of course I love you, of course I see you, and of course I care for you. As they're having this argument, Jeff's phone rings, and Rashida's like, get the phone. Jeff is like, no. So Rashida snatches the phone out of Jeff's hand, and she answers the phone, and of course it's Myron, and he's like, did you get in the car yet, babe? So y'all really doing the bending. But there were signs of them doing the bending, because the way that Myron touched his thigh on last week's episode when they were trying to figure out who's taking who home, and Myron was like, I'll take the pastor home, and Jeff adamantly said, no, you won't. But he only said that because Rashida and her friends were standing there. Rashida, this is your time to get the divorce, take your money and run it. How do y'all think Rashida's gonna react next week? Let me know what you guys think about the episode. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn your bell notifications. Bye!